if you're interested in actually learning how to flip homes.
In late 2020, Amira Hadid signed up for a home flipping boot camp offered by real estate company iFLIP Chicago.
iFLIP Chicago boot camps is 100% hands-on.
This is something that my mom always wanted to do, and I'm a fan of HGTV.
Yeah, and it's your own cousin.
Yeah, and who can't trust family?
My name is Ramo Bey, and it's my wife,
Michaele Nicole Bey.
That's Amira's cousin, Michaele Bey. She and her husband, Ramo Bey, run iFLIP Chicago. In addition to boot camps, the company offers joint venture partnerships to first-time investors who want to flip a home.
There were a lot of people who had successfully done flips with him.
Tatiana Barnett is a realtor and iFLIP boot camp graduate. Both she and Amira say after the boot camp, they were recruited into iFLIP's joint venture program. It was supposed to work like this. Participants would have to provide some upfront capital. iFLIP would find the property, provide access to the lender, and oversee the renovation. Then iFLIP would sell the home for you and take 30% of the total profit.
You don't have to worry about any of this stuff because they have all of these relationships.
To get financing through iFLIP's preferred lender, Ramo Bey told the women his name had to be on their loan.
Being in real estate, it's not something that's unheard of if you don't have a track record of doing, fix and flips with lenders.
At closing, each woman hired iFLIP's preferred real estate attorney, Alex Ranja, to represent them. But Tatiana says Ranja never showed up at her closing. They didn't know it yet, but in hindsight, this is where they say things went terribly wrong. Buried in the hundreds of pages of documents they signed during closing were 4 sentences in the loan agreement that put them on the hook for Ramo Bey's debts. It was part of a cross-default and collateralization clause that meant if Ramo went delinquent on any of his own loans, the lender would charge what Ramo owed to the loans he held with other iFLIP participants, like Amira and Tatiana.
And Ramo had several past due balances.
The women's loan documents show they were charged thousands in cross-interest fees, all transferred from Ramo's delinquent loans.
This was never about flipping property. This was about taking loans out to pay a debt. That didn't belong to us.
The loans then went on to fail. They were never written to succeed. They were predatory loans.
Now lawsuits recently filed by both women say iFLIP lured them into a real estate investment Ponzi scheme, and the lender and real estate attorney were in on it.
So instead of you getting the money to pay the contractors and renovate the home, what was happening with it?
We have no idea where the money is.
How much are we talking about here?
I have lost $169,000. I'm sorry.
We are at risk of losing over $200,000.
Our desire was to elevate the Black community, rebuild and redevelop our neighborhoods.
And the Woodlawn community Ramo and Michaele claim they wanted to revitalize now has 2 more vacant and decaying homes dotting its landscape.
So this property has been this way since 2022.
Sandra Robinson lives next to the home Amira was never able to finish renovating.
It's an eyesore. I hope something gets to be done.
It's disgusting that this is 2 years later and we have no answer. We have more questions than answers.
We found at least 7 iFLIP investment properties, including Tatiana's, are currently in foreclosure. In an email, Ramo Bey tells us he and his clients were a victim of predatory lending, and the cross-collateralization policy was never disclosed or explained to him at closing. He says he will go after the lender who caused all this damage. Alex Ranja's attorney tells me they will be filing a motion to dismiss the case. Ramo is still holding real estate investment seminars on Facebook and encouraging church groups to invest. PJ Randhawa, NBC5 responds. They promised a path to financial freedom, a shot at building generational wealth.
Make an investment and leave a legacy for your children and your children's children.
Ramo and Michaele Bey run iFLIP Chicago, and if you have a little bit of money to invest, they claim to provide everything else you need to successfully flip a home, from the contractors to the funding.
We have over $30 million worth of rehab funding.
But according to 2 lawsuits, Ramo Bey allegedly lured inexperienced investors into signing up for predatory loans with him. The loans were cross-collateralized, meaning if Ramo fell behind on any other loans in his name, the iFLIP investors he recruited would be responsible for paying his debt. As a result, nearly a dozen investors tell NBC5 Responds they couldn't access the loan money they needed to finish their flips.
It's like getting in bed with the devil.
Every day I came in the game when I lost.
With the interest on their loans accumulating, these investors say they had no choice but to dip into their own funds to start renovating their properties. But there was another challenge.
It's falling apart.
You feel like this will snap at some point?
It's gonna snap.
The investors say the poor quality of work done by iFLIP's contractors led each home to fail multiple city inspections.
Basically, everything that took place in our home was against the city code.
It's raining in the room.
So almost all of the work completed had to be torn out and redone.
So I just took this drywall down. This is what's behind the wall. And I'm over $100,000 into this property.
Tiffany Brown was ultimately able to complete the renovation on her own, but Deshaun Carr and Miranda Booker's properties ended up in foreclosure.
It's sitting here because nothing else could be done. Why? Because all of our funds had run out.
In a statement to NBC5 Response last month, Ramo said he and his clients were a victim of predatory lending and that language in the loans was never disclosed or explained at closing. But emails and documents obtained by NBC5 Response show Ramo signed up more than 20 iFLIP investors for these loans. And he was repeatedly told his debts were being tacked on to other investors' loans. The lawsuits offer a possible motive for all of this. They accuse him of conspiring with the lender, Envision Funding, to profit off the pricey loan extension fees many investors paid to avoid defaulting on their loans.
I paid $95,000.
The extensions and everything was another $30,000.
Ramo denies that allegation, but his denials don't explain this. On Deshaun's closing paperwork from 2021, Ramo lists himself as a loan officer for Envision Funding.
He created a system that he can make money through the whole process without putting no money up and without no risk.
It's another strand of a web that has led more than a dozen iFLIP investors into foreclosure.
This ain't just a bad situation. This was a scheme.
Last month, Ramo Bey agreed to do an interview with us, and he even posted online about how he was looking forward to defending himself in court. Well, Ramo did not respond to our latest request for that interview, and neither he nor his attorney has shown up in court to answer to those 2 civil lawsuits he's facing from iFLIP investors in Cook County. Meantime, the president of Envision Funding told us they are unable to comment on pending litigation. PJ Randhawa, NBC5 Responds.